All right, here we go. We're at it again. The Anarchist Handbook, organized by Michael Malice. Reading it 10 minutes a day, and today is episode 17 here on 6/12/21, and we're still in the midst of chapter 6, Josiah Warren, From True Civilization, An Immediate Necessity, and the Last Ground of Hope for Mankind, written in the United States in 1863. So here we go. Page 57. And he has everything broken down into points. So this is point 51. No coercive system of taxation could be necessary to such a government so simple that children will be first to comprehend it, and which even they can see it for their interest to assist, and then would as readily play soger to prevent mischief as to do mischief. With our mind's eye steadily fixed on this great democratic principle and object, let us immediately commence the agitation of the idea of forming companies of home guards on this principle. Let anyone who feels so disposed take the first steps and invite the cooperation of persons sufficiently intelligent to comprehend the object to form a nucleus. Parentheses, the known habitual regard to the inalienable rights of persons and property would be the best title to membership. End parenthesis. Then commence drill and discipline, keeping in mind all the time the kind of discipline required, which would be partly in the form of lectures, taking as text the details of the destruction of persons and okay, I don't know if that's a typo. Persons and property going on all around us, and showing with how much less violence the same or better objects could have been accomplished. And in the drill, giving some orders to do some unnecessary harm, on purpose to be disobeyed, in order to accustom the subordinates to look before they leap or strike. 54. Such a military force would be within, but not under, discipline. In other words, its, quote, Sabbath would be made for man, not man made for its Sabbath. To be under instead of within discipline is a mistake as fatal as that of getting underwater instead of within water. 55. If the true mission of the military or enforcing power is kept constantly in view and made, as it were, the guiding star, scarcely anything can go seriously amiss, and NVC need no other guide for the use of a governing force, nor will it answer to allow any theories or precedents to override this one supreme consideration. 56. Companies thus formed would do well to communicate with each other, which would be all the general organization required for a worldwide cooperation. 57. Here would be a government to preserve and not to destroy, to protect and not to invade, a government that can include the whole strength of the world, when mighty would be for the right and no enemies to contend with. 58. The charms of music, of mutual sympathy, the beauties of order, and the unity of dress and of movement in military displays, now so seductive to purposes of destruction and degradation, would entice to the highest and noblest objects of human ambition, which would never need a field of activity as long as wanton oppression, even of a single individual, has footing on the earth. 59. Thus far we have considered the true functions of government, and find that it has to deal only with offensive encroachments upon persons or property. Like a volunteer guard on a wrecked vessel in the confusion of a disaster, the frenzy of hunger, and the fear of starvation, to prevent unnecessary destruction of life or property, an expedient choice of evils where there is nothing but evils to choose from. 60. Society has thus far been only a, quote, series of failures, and as at this day a mere assemblage of wrecks thrown against each other on a tempestuous sea without pilots, charts, rudders, or compass. 61. The first ship has not yet been constructed that is not liable to be wrecked by the very element that moves it on a successful voyage. And the first form of general society is yet to be developed that would not be liable to destruction from the instinctive, quote, pursuit of happiness, without which no society would exist. 62. Government, strictly and scientifically speaking, is a coercive force. A man, while governed with his own consent, is not governed at all. 63. Deliberative bodies such as legislatures, congresses, conventions, courts, etc., are not scientifically speaking, are not government, which is simply coercive force. But inasmuch as that force should never be employed without a deliberate reference to its legitimate object, and upon which all available wisdom should be brought to bear, a deliberative council acting before or with the government seems highly expedient, if not indispensable. 64. Moreover, there are subjects now before us and continually arising, on which, by timely forethought, violent issues may be prevented from arising. And many most important subjects may be adjusted by counsel alone, without any appeal to force. 65. Such counselors should not be tempted by unearned salaries and honors, nor by compensation measured by the necessities or weakness and the defenselessness of their clients. Nor should they consist of those who, like editors of news, can make money by wars and other calamities than can make more money by wars and other calamities than they can by peace and general prosperity. But let the counselors be those who are willing to wait, like tillers of the soil, for compensation according to the quantity and quality of their work. Let compensation or honors come in the form of voluntary contributions after, but not before, benefits have been realized. 66. It is therefore suggested that any person of either sex who may coincide with this proposition and who feels competent to give counsel in any department of human affairs publicly announce the fact, as lawyers and physicians now do, or permit their names and functions to be made accessible to the public in some manner, so that whoever may need honest counsel or any subject may know where to find it. If a meeting of such counselors is thought desirable by any interested party, he or she can invite such as are thought to be the most competent for the occasion, according to the subject to be considered. '67. These counselors, while in session, would constitute a deliberative assembly or an advisory tribunal. It might consist of both sexes or either sex, according to the nature of the subject to be deliberated upon. 68. After deliberation, or whenever any interested party feels ready to make up an opinion, let him or her write it down with the reasons for it and present it to the counselors in the audience for their signatures, and let the document go forth to the public or to the interested parties. If there are several such documents, those having the signatures of counselors or persons most known to be reliable would have the most weight. But in order to ensure any influence or benefit from either, let compensation come to the counselors like that to Rowland Hill, in voluntary contributions after the benefits of the opinions have, to some extent, been realized. 69. After having thus brought the best experience and well-balanced counselors to bear upon any subject without satisfying all parties, every person has a sovereign right to differ from all the opinions of the tribunal, while not invading or disturbing other persons or property. 70. When an issue has already been raised and no one of these decisions is acceptable to both parties, the decisions may be laid before the military or government to act at its discretion. selecting that course which promises the least violence or disturbance. If any member declines to act, his inalienable right to do so, being sacredly respected, would tend to confirm and illustrate the only principle that can... I'm going to just do this whole one again. It's a bit of an awkward passage. 70. When an issue has already been raised and no one of these decisions is acceptable to both parties, the decision may be laid before the military or government to act at its discretion, selecting that course which promises the least violence or disturbance. If any member declines to act, his inalienable right to do so, being sacredly respected, would tend to confirm and illustrate the only principle that can regulate, at the very moment that it should regulate, the action of others. And that will be it. About halfway through page 60 of chapter 3 of Josiah Warren's essay, written in 1863. So this was written in America at a time of great trauma. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're listening to it. There we go. Get some.